Hello, everybody, and today I'm here to review The Avengers. So, I've been on an MCU marathon lately. I've been watching all the way from Iron Man all the way to the Fantastic Four First Steps. So, the MCU has changed a lot recently. Whether you like it or you don't, you are welcome to hear my opinion on this movie. The Avengers is, I guess you can say, the first big a Marvel event movie that everyone's been anticipating. Without X-Men, Blade, Spider-Man, we probably wouldn't have the MCU. Because of those successful movies, we were able to get a cinematic universe that connects. And now the MCU is connecting to those movies too, all the way in the future because of Spider-Man, No Way Home, and Deadpool and Wolverine. But whenever we do get a crossover, we know it's going to be big. So this is The Avengers. Came out in 2012, and of course I was not allowed to watch it because PG-13. But as I got older, of course I was able to watch this movie, and I gotta say on rewatch, I actually really enjoyed it. I don't think it's the best Avengers movie because of movies like Infinity War and Endgame. But this movie is definitely special for a lot of people, including me. This is easily one of the most important superhero movies, in my opinion. We got an amazing cast. We got so many good characters all coming together, literally. It all started off with Iron Man, then eventually Hulk showed up, then Thor, Hawkeye made a cameo, Black Widow made her appearance in Iron Man 2, and then Cap got his own movie, and then they finally come together because Loki from Thor, who, if you don't know, at the time, he fell to his death at the end of that first movie for the Thor franchise, and he is now trying to take over Midgard by stealing the Tesseract as after it's being tested by Nick Fury and Shield. And Samuel L. Jackson, of course, plays the awesome Nick Fury. I know a lot of people don't really like Nick Fury now because they don't know what they're really doing with the character all that much. But he is totally badass in this movie. He's always got the good one-liners. Samuel L. Jackson just owns this role, honestly. But Loki basically finds his way around the shield helicarrier, the shield base, whatever you want to call it, and he's able to use the staff to mind control a bunch of people, including Hawkeye. I was not expecting Hawkeye to get mind controlled at first, and honestly, people probably just viewed him as a random dude because he was just using a gun, until later he does use his arrows, the iconic arrows. But once Loki does escape, Nick Fury announces that they are at war. But we get a bunch of scenes where what the Avengers are up to. Basically, Hulk's in hiding as Bruce Banner. This time, he's been changed actors. Edward Norton's not playing the Hulk anymore. It is Mark Ruffalo. Honestly, I do prefer Mark Ruffalo. He just has that awkwardness with Bruce Banner, and he's able to just turn into the gigantic Hulk. I wish Edward Norton did have more of a chance to play the Hulk. I think he's an underrated one. I don't think he's my favorite one, but I definitely prefer Mark Ruffalo for sure. But also we get Black Widow. We get this cute scene where she is captured by a mob boss, and of course she's just playing around until she gets a call from Phil Coulson, played by Clark Gregg, and she's able to escape badass style. And she's able to suit up as the Black Widow. But we also see what Iron Man's up to. He's basically working on some stuff, and he's working on Stark Tower. We get a cameo from Pepper Potts. She's not really in the movie too much, but basically he's asked by Phil Coulson if he wants to join the Avengers, and he's like, nah, at first until later in the movie. But we get a lot more scenes with Captain America, of course, played by the awesome Chris Evans. But yeah, he is returning for Doomsday. I don't know if that's considered a spoiler, but he was in a trailer. But to see Cap trying to adjust to the life of the 21st century, it's definitely interesting for sure. Just like in the comics, where he was in the 40s and now he's in the 60s when the Avengers first came out for their first comic book, and now Cap is still young as ever. He did turn old in the comics, but then he, of course, became young again. But as things are going on for Cap, he is slowly learning how the world works now, and he's getting flashbacks from the first movie, which was interesting, of course. But when these characters do meet up, they're basically assigned on their first mission, as they do get a tracking from Loki, who has taken over some, I guess you can say, not a museum, but like some coliseum, and he's wearing like a suit, which looks cool, and we get a bunch of like piano music, which I thought was cool. And this is where we do see Hawkeye in action, where he does grab the arrows, and he's using it to take out various goons and agents. But Loki was basically using the sector to see, I guess you can say, a flashback of when he was talking to the army that's going to be used later in the movie, the Chitauri. But we see this one dude, I forget his name. He gets more of an appearance in Guardians of the Galaxy, but he's basically one of Thanos' henchmen. But once Loki is taken over the Coliseum, we get the infamous Neil. But I haven't really talked about Tom Hiddleston as Loki. I really do like Tom Hiddleston as Loki. I really couldn't see anyone else playing this character. He just owns this role too. He just has that charm and accent that goes well with Loki. You could just tell he's the god of mischief and cruelty. But I'm glad Loki did get his own show. He got to really shine in Loki season 1 and 2. But I think he really became a fan favorite in this movie because of how iconic and charming he was. But once the Avengers do show up, we do get our first scene where Iron Man and Cap first meet. We get the iconic Stark Cap. But they find a way to capture Loki. We did get a scene with Cap versus Loki, which I thought was cool. But they take Loki on the Quinjet, and this is where we do meet Thor for a second time, who's looking for Loki, of course, and he manages to grab him. And of course, Thor is upset with Loki for escaping and faking his death, and he even tries to say how they're brothers. They fought together, they played together, and of course Loki is just not buying it. But once Iron Man shows up, he tries to de-escalate things until Cap de-escalates things more, and it just leads to a fight between Thor, Iron Man, and Cap, the Trinity of the MCU. But it was probably the coolest part was Cap was able to deflect Thor's hammer, which I thought was cool. Like the vibranium shield can even fight back against Asgardian hammers. But when they do have Loki in his hands, they take him back to S.H.I.E.L.D., and they're, of course, going to be questioning him. And probably the most infamous scene is where Black Widow tries to play games with Loki by pretending to act scared of him. And once we get this wild scene where Loki is threatening to just kill Widow and Hawkeye, and it's just like, whoa, we get some over-the-topness with Tom Hiddleston for sure. But they're able to find out some secrets about him with the scepter, but it's all a trick, as Loki plans to take over S.H.I.E.L.D., but even Bruce is using the scepter, and they don't even trust him because they're worried he's going to turn into the Hulk. But probably the most infamous scene I forgot to also mention is where Widow and Banner meet. And I love the part where Banner's like, "Stop lying to me." I thought that was like, whoa. And then Widow basically just pulls out a gun on him. But his temper really becomes a thing once he does get aboard on S.H.I.E.L.D. and Loki's basically able to trick the Hulk into unleashing once a group of people show up. Mind controlled shield agents show up with Hawkeye, and he uses his arrows to take over the helicarrier. And Nick Fury tries to do his best to handle things, but everything just goes wrong. We even see an argument between Tony and Cap, the infamous "Take that off, what are you? Genius, billionaire, playboy." But of course, Cap and Iron Man are fighting their way around the shield helicarrier as things are falling apart. But Loki actually does manage to escape, and Thor tries to chase him down. But of course, he's tricked into getting locked away in a vault where Loki was. And he's like, "Are you ever not going to fall for that?" But of course, Agent Coulson shows up. And this is his big stance. He uses the Destroyer, which he was going to use in the first Thor movie, but he never got a chance to. And he's like, I never got to use this. Let's find out. And then we get this infamous scene where Coulson, unfortunately, is stabbed through the chest by Loki. So I know there's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I've not watched that show, and Coulson does come back in that show. And some people like to say that whether that show is canon or not, but I don't know. I don't know if this is the official death of Agent Coulson. It was sad to see the guy go. I did like him a lot in Ultimate Spider-Man. That's what I more saw him in. And Clark Gregg did play Phil Coulson even in that show for a little bit. But I guess he was busy with other projects as Ultimate Spider-Man eventually became its own thing. But Coulson's basically able to use the Destroyer on Loki anyway. He shoots him, and yeah, he gets his revenge. And he says, "Oh, so that's what it does." But yeah, Coulson dies, and even Nick seems saddened by it. But Loki's able to escape, and he launches Thor into the atmosphere. And Widow and Hulk are basically down into the vault, and Hulk unleashes by becoming the Hulk. And we get some wild Hulk action. And the CGI actually does look pretty cool on Hulk for the time being. But Widow's able to escape. And she does find Hawkeye, who's still under the mind control. And she's able to knock him out. In the Lego version, you actually had to fight Hawkeye as a boss fight, which I thought was a cool level. But of course, Hawkeye is able to get out of the control. And the Avengers that have decided to make their next move to stop Loki from unleashing the army, in which he's going to use the scepter and the Tesseract to unleash the Chitauri, which is made and led by Thanos. But we don't see Thanos until the ending. But the Chitauri are able to come out, and the Avengers have to make their next move. And they all suit up, of course. And yeah, they get a few talks before they go into the battlefield after they realize what has been going on. But once they do get to the battle in New York, it's easily some of the best of the movie. Honestly, people probably would say it's a cliche final battle, but it's actually entertaining to see Avengers just trying to protect the people of New York, even though a lot of bad things are going on, of course. But they're able to combat it, of course. And we get probably the most iconic scene is where the Avengers line up and they're all circling, pulling out their awesome weapons. And Hulk comes out, and once he did crash land somewhere, and he was in his banner form, and he met like this janitor dude. I think he passed away, the actor who played him, unfortunately. But Hulk's basically able to come back on a scooter, and he's like, "Well, this is horrible." And then Cap is like, "Oh, might now be a good time to be angry." And he's like, "That's my secret, Cap. I'm always angry." And yeah, we get the awesome badass scene where the Hulk just smashes a Chitauri ship, and he just tears it apart. And of course, that's where we do get the lineup, and I love it. Yeah, this team is so iconic. Iron Man, Hulk, Captain America 4, Black Widow, Hawkeye, all of them together to save New York. And we get a bunch of cool scenes. Cap basically orders everyone to just make their rules for their missions. But we also, I forgot to also mention, before the battle, Iron Man does go back to Stark Tower, and he has a little talk with Loki. And I just love how Robert Downey Jr. is able to use his cleverness when talking to Loki. And Loki's just like, oh, I have an army. We have a Hulk. But Loki's basically just using his hovercraft to try to destroy New York. And Thor tries to confront him, but he manages to almost take out Loki until Hawkeye is able to shoot an arrow at Loki. He catches it, but of course, it just blows up in his face. And Hulk shows up, and he just smashes Loki to death, just grabs him, throws him, and yeah, and just says, puny god. And Loki's just like, that scene is easily the best. If you want to watch someone get what they deserve, just watch that. Watch that clip, honestly. But the Avengers are able to find a way to get on to top of Stark Tower, with Black Widow jumping onto one of the T'Chari ship's pilots, and she's able to meet Eric Selvig. I forgot to also mention, he's in the movie, Steven Skarsgård. He is basically mind controlled throughout the whole movie, but he's able to get out of the control with Widow's help, and the two are basically able to work together to stop what's going on, but the government doesn't trust what's going on after everything is going on, and Nick Fury is trying to do everything in his power to stop them from sending a nuke, but they send a nuke to New York City, and Iron Man has to stop it. He literally picks up the missile, throws it into the portal, and honestly, I was hoping he was going to get out of the portal, because honestly, what would have happened if he went into space and he did not come back through the portal? They did do that in What If, where what if he didn't make it through the portal at the end of Avengers, but he does fall through in the main timeline, and we almost thought he was going to die. But of course, the Hulk just wakes him up. But the day is saved. They stop Loki, and the Avengers are all thanked by the city and the people. And we even get a waitress who was saved by Captain America. She even gives a speech about how Captain America saved her life. We even get a Stan Lee cameo who's saying, superheroes, give me a break. But the Avengers all meet up in downtown New York, and even Hawkeye gives Loki a stare. And they all send Loki back to Asgard with Thor, and we see what happens to them in Thor: The Dark World. But that's Avengers. I've been talking a lot. But this movie is easily amazing. It lined up the characters perfectly. A lot of great action. Just a lot of CGI-ness. And we do get a post-credit scene of Thanos. Our first look at him. For some reason, he has almost like a human hand in this first scene. But as time went on, Thanos is a giant CGI dude. But this movie had so many good actors, so many iconic lines that's still quotable and memorable to this day. I'm really curious what they're going to do with Avengers Doomsday. We'll have to be on the lookout for sure. But I'm going to try to review the other MCU stuff. I'm trying to catch up on all the Marvel reviews since there's so many I'd love to review, but I just haven't made the time. So I hope you enjoyed this review. So anyway, thanks for watching, and Avengers Assemble.